Well, see, it says we're live, so I'll turn the Fleetwood Mac off. Shame, but it's good stuff. So, hello, everybody. How are you doing? So good to see y'all. Hope you're strong into the week, or however you talk Saturday and Sunday to be. I trust it was a good one, and so good to see everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Um, I just speak favor over us all. God, we can use like bunches and bunches, and nothing missing, nothing broken. I speak that over myself, my dancer, my wife. So, how's everyone doing? Bosto got the old Sky Pilot here. We'll do the old hug. Since, yes, we're all crazy in here, the Cheshire Cat would say. Welcome to the insane asylum, huh? Well, that's what it seems to be. And but what a ride. Tomorrow got a second look with Trish, and then Wednesday got Ryder Lee coming on, and other things coming down the road. So what's happening, everybody? Hey, Crystal, Shaman, good to see you. Elda Berry, hello. Robert V, how are you, my friend? I had a very excellent, most excellent weekend indeed. Nina, good to see you. And Peter, Chloe, and Eye of the Maelstrom. Yes, I was busy taking care of business. You got to do those things sometimes. You really do. Hey, Robert Munza, good to see you. Loretta as well. And Twilight Traveler. Agape love to all. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Sylvia, good to see you. Carol, hello. And Kent, good to see you, my friend. So good to see you. So what's happening? Always good to see y'all stopping by. Kayla wrote me and said that her friend Trish had beat cancer. So way to go. Trisha, I'll tell you what, it can be done many times in the past, So realistic reality. That's the poster. Got that when I visited the Guggenheim in, oddly enough, September of 1999. Had a really good time. Show you some of the pictures I got in that. I actually rented a helicopter and toured all the island and got some really good shots of the World Trade Center that no longer exist in this reality. So, what's up? I have something I need to show you. We'll send you an email. All right, good. All right, fine. Sounds good. Hey, Jenny, what's up? I am very interested in the topic as my shape-shifting reptilianness seems to be broken. I think that it's a psych to the bankers started the genocide to the rest. Yeah. It's interesting. My wife and I was talking to her about this because this is a subject I have studied for decades. And I knew decades ago that I was on the right track. It's just hard to accept. I mean, you look at us, we know what our DNA is. There is no such thing as a human. We're hybrids. Every sense of the truth of the scientific term, we are hybrids. It's amazing how many humans are born with tails, which tells us at one time humans did have tails, actual tails. And we're still going through the evolution of these bodies. For instance, our small toes are disappearing. They suspect in the next couple hundred years, there won't be a small toe. Why? We don't use them anymore. Much like many of the other organs in our bodies that we're still discovering. I don't think I have. Oh, it's Crystal. It's in the description box. Steiger R. Wayne at gmail.com. Uh, that's a fact, Delta Hook. It is a fact. And check me out on this. I mean, and here's the interesting thing. We're going to get really into it. I'm going to get right into this because I've got a ton of material. And in as much that, this was Easter weekend and we have all this symbology going on, symbolism. deep stuff. So I did this program. Many of y'all may have not even been with me back then. This was done almost 4.5 years ago. Oh, wow. It's amazing. This was part of a series that will eventually become a book. My books are actually these video books. But this was part of the Bloodline Invader series. This is obviously number 6. And I want to get right into it because we've got a lot to cover. So, is this God? This is supposedly the known universe. I don't know if it is or not. I mean, I've never seen it. That's what they say. Okay. All right. But it gets down to this whole thing. What is truth? There's kind of like two stories going on here. Um, you know, you've got over here on the left, which this is no longer a reality. They're canceling this out. But nevertheless, we do have eyewitnesses. So on this channel, we discussed that we know that there is a different history than the one that is propagated out there, the one that, everyone goes by. No, many of us have realized that there is this story about two human beings being in some sort of a geographical area that, apparently was very habitable to the humans. They didn't have any clothes. And we got the story of this serpent, and there's many interpretations of this serpent. Here's one. I'm going to show you many, many different interpretations. But what is interesting to understand, this serpent was a bipedal. Yeah. Now, in this one, you probably can't read the Greek down there, but what this is actually, this may be Lilith, one of the very few pictures out there of Lilith and Adam with the divine being, the serpent. The term, we know that in the Bible, it says that God's throne is surrounded by the seraphim. The seraphim are the archangels. Seraphim literally means serpent, reptilian one. We're going to get into a document here that will show you how the names have come about and how these names have played a major role. And throughout our supposed beginnings, we have this play that has unfolded. And it is a play that is immersed in half-truths, symbolisms, stories of another time. Hard to say if we were even, this was actually humans that this happened to. Here's the great depiction that now we have the serpent reduced. And you can see how the culture of the Western doctrination has overtaken a vast majority of the human consciousness and the perception of what this story is about. Because in other cultures, the serpent is anything but evil, is anything that's harmful. The serpent represents wisdom. The serpent represents healing, as we will see. Depending what part of the world you are, the cultures vary as to what the serpent is and is not. This is in the Hindu. I think this is Krishna, if I could be wrong. This is the Naga. The Naga people are the people, the serpent people. Here again, the cobra is revered as wisdom, good fortune. The question becomes, well, what God created the sapiens? Isn't it odd? Sapien, which means wise, yet we can trace the word back sapien to serpent. But we don't want to talk about this because this is the other alternative. If you don't believe the other fairy tale, this one may very well be as much a fairy tale as the other one. Because there is a disturbing thing that the most earliest of documents say the creators were these guys from the Orion system, the Reptilians. We as serpent humans are a substrate of our creators. I know people don't like to think this, but there's a lot of evidence that would suggest that that is the case, because if you go, and we are going to go on a ride here, because there is something seriously going on. Now, this is the depiction of Moses putting up the bronze serpent. And as you can see, it's on a cross. Now, it's really interesting. I want to stop right here because I have somewhere I want us to go. Give me 1 second. Hi, y'all. How y'all doing? So here is an interesting document. We just went through, for many of the Abrahamic belief of a certain division, that this was their high holy day. But here's an interesting thing. So get this. The Greek word translated as meaning crucified, satros, actually means impaled on a stake or pole. However, as the churches are trying to hide that the Ashroth pole or stake was the totem symbol of the Israelites' mother goddess Ashtaroth, they try to keep this hidden. Ashtaroth was worshipped as the wife of God, Yahweh. I want to think that, huh? Well, that complicates the story. Then what was Mary? Anyway, the Bible explains why the bizarre story says Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For as it is written, cursed is everyone who was hung on a pole, not crucified, not nailed to a cross. You're going to find out that cross isn't anything what they think. Anyway, the above quote saying Jesus is cursed is surprising because Jesus was following the direction of God and Moses, who taught their followers to erect a pole, meaning an Ashtaroth pole, if they wanted to have life. And the Lord said unto Moses, make you a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten, when he looks upon it, shall live. And Moses made the serpent of bronze and put it on a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of bronze, he lived. A wild story. Now, it goes on to say that this is actually a depiction of that event. I don't think if it happened, but anyway, we can accept imagery. Moses's Ashtaroth pole, and this is interesting. You go through the book of Kings, the book of Chronicles, you find out that Solomon was really into this Ashtaroth pole thing, man. Oh, yeah. Anyway, was called a fiery serpent, a serpent of bronze or brass, and a serpent on a cross. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. You see where they're in the cross reference here? But, we've got this whole different perception about what is the serpent. See, the Bible says God wants he wanted people to remain ignorant and mortal. instead of having eternal life and knowledge like them. It's true. However, this Jesus cat, and then remember, there was no J back in the first century. And again, how do you define the first century? But that's neither here nor there. Showed that he was on the side of the serpent. And he said that the serpent was harmless as doves when he told his followers to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. The dove was also the symbol of the Holy Spirit. So, whoa. Now we really got a whole dialogue here that, whoa, so thought the slimy thing was the curse. No. John the Baptist and Jesus also confirmed the priests of the temple that the Pharisees and the Sadducees were also serpents. You serpents, you brood of vipers, wow, well, that's pretty intense. The Bible said, now the ancient Hebrews are not the modern day Jews. There are no Hebrews. They died out long time ago. But because then you got to go back, because after the Hebrews were the children of Israel and those, anyway, I digress. Says the Hebrews set up Asheroth poles. This is Mama God. Yes, the El Shaddai, the Mama God. El Shaddai means multi-breasted one. Anyway, all across Palestine, they set up sacred pillars and Asheroth poles on the top of every hill and under every green tree. A lot of pole setting, isn't it? For they also built for themselves pagan shrines. Pagan? What? And set up sacred pillars and the Asheroth poles on high on every hill. So the Asheroth pole also meant to represent the tree of life and knowledge in the Garden of Eden. Okay. They go on to say that it's quoted that Jesus was hung on a tree, not a cross. Now, when he had fulfilled all that was written concerning him, they took him down from the tree and laid him in a tomb. Yeah, they never did have the cross. That whole thing they do through the streets, Shakespearean. Anyway, also it says that we witnessed all these things. Goes on to say that Christianity claims that the serpent is the devil. No, because the serpent tried to give mankind eternal knowledge and life by encouraging Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. Now, we know that this story is carried over into a plethora of other stories coming out of this whole Mesopotamian area. It says, you can't eat from it. Yeah, we know all about that. It says that God's even admitted that anyone who ate the forbidden fruit would become like gods. In doing so, the gods were conceding that Asheroth, Mama God, was greater than them and a better God to worship. The man has now become like us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. So now they're afraid of us. We know that. This one goes on to say that the Elohim, which means gods, the plural, and it goes on to say how it's been deliberately mistranslated. We know that. We know that there are other gods far more impressive and humane. And if you got to worship one, I guess there's plenty of others, much more friendlier. So I want to get into this thing about the cross. It says that in Christianity, it says that Jesus hung on a cross is because the cross was genitalia, symbol of Isis. Isis's cross was called the Ankh. The first syllable of the word Ankhur was named after the Ankh, as Isis was also the goddess of the sea and protector of sailors, fishermen, and seafarers. Isis's cross was often depicted in red to represent her time of the month. And that's pretty gross. But for me, I don't know. I mean, why? Anyway, they say that that's why it's been adopted as the symbol. So let's move on because we've got a lot more to cover. Let me get back to where I am because I want to show you a book that we're going to be covering right after I get finished with this PowerPoint. This is The Secret History of the Reptilians. It's called The Pervasive Presence of the Serpent in Human History, Religion, and Alien Mythos, written by Scott Allen Roberts. Yeah, this one's going to be fun, kids. And you're going to see. So let's continue where we left off. So when we left off, we found out that the serpent, well, thing is everywhere. And it means wisdom, means life, and it means knowledge. The symbolisms. Yeah. And it goes back to some of the earliest, and I do mean earliest, caves, rocks, the carvings, the stories. It is, in fact, you're going to see Enki and Inyel and the whole group there are reptilian. They're not like us. They're not white dudes. They're not human. And we have seen this depicted all throughout history. Here is probably one of the strangest statues. This is a reptilian mother. As you can see, has a early Homo sapien or man, which in this case is a woman, and protecting her, cuddling her. Here we have the same thing, the reptilian embracing the human, female here. So these stories, they go on and on. Some of the earliest carvings. This is Sumerian. And no matter where you go on this planet, and no matter how far you want to dig back, I'm going to tell you what you're going to find. The serpent is everywhere. This is the Naga. The Naga are the serpent people. Again, representation of the Naga. And in the Far East, again, the serpent is wisdom, wise, life, immortality, nothing to be feared. And then no matter what culture, Mayan, Minoan, excuse me, that's what this is. Again, look at what she has. This is the goddess. She has wisdom, and then she has the bird. And she is standing upon the sacred, I believe those are eggs. Again, the carverines that we have. This is our mother. Excuse me. Yeah, people don't want to think this. Hail to the nose, Steiger. Ain't buying this stuff. Well, fine. The way we have it right now is certainly one freaking chaotic mess. But again, and all the early goddesses, the goddesses that created us, have all been representative as a serpent. Weird. This is the Cardicus. Every nurse, doctor, practitioner out there, They wear their cardicus. The military, that's how you know a person is in the medical service. Wisdom. And we go back and we hear stories from Africa that the gods were these huge serpents. And I don't mean small ones. Here is a depiction of, again, this is, I believe, a Chinese goddess, the serpent, and she has all of creation within her tail. And there is man, as you can see, that she has holding in her hand. It's, yeah. The Naga. Mesoamerican. And look how it, if you really do a study on this, you're going to come to the same conclusion that I have come to. If there is a God that is responsible for us, then it appears to be reptilian. Even when you get in, this is Russia. Again, this is the goddess of life, as you can see what she holds in her hand. And if you look on the altar, the symbolism here, come on, folks. You have both the owl and the serpent. This, again, all over the world. Why? And when you look at what's happening in us today, there's some strange stuff going on. There's no doubt about it. Here is some of the earliest stone carvings of serpent worship. This is God. And these are God's faithful disciples worshiping the serpent. In Egyptian folklore, the serpent plays a huge role. As we got into the Enlightened period, what we call the Golden Dawn, we began to see a whole new group of humans who began to see beyond the veil of the true mysteries here. These are 3 different cultures from 3 very long, distinct periods of time. Mayan, Hindu, Egyptian, all depicting the serpent as God. Again, going back into the earliest of African legends and their belief systems, the serpent is prominently depicted, always having a place. And here is another. You have Afghanistan, Crete, Egyptian, Turkey. Why? We can't just brush this off. We can't say, well, I am so enlightened that I'm ascending above this. Says who? I have been spending a great deal of time in just quiet meditation and reading. And if prophecy has any place in our reality, then the answer to changing the future is in our past. We have forgotten something. Something very important has been taken from us. And you cannot tell me that these cultures that are separated by millennia, that they were what? Just ignorant? I mean, if man is going to mirror artisans, they have to see it. Now, many can see it within their own minds, but yet I contend, I believe there was a first. And again, going back even to Babylon, before Babylon, Sumerian, here are coins depicting the crucifixion, that it was not a man, but a serpent that was crucified. People don't like hearing this shit. No way, Steiger. No. But you tell me. So what was this cat actually representing? I mean, this is not contrived. This is an actual coin. Yeah. And then you got the Egyptians. Now, this is a strange instrument. It's technology, but yet when you look at it, encased in whatever it is this person is holding, there's a serpent in it. Weird stuff. Why? This is Enki. In Inyel. And if you look over on the left, Enki is represented as a serpent man. Here's the story. Inyel, tethered and imprisoned Enki in an energy field because he gave Tiamat, the first Eve, and Adamu, the self-awareness and reproduction. Sex was only for the gods. Eve was conscious before Adam was, has adorned her belly and genitalia, proud of her source of pleasure. She stares at her Enki, her dad, in tethers. Well. They did not teach this in Sunday school, did they? These are symbols of Enki, Thoth, and you can see how the medical logo and the DNA. Serpent. John Lash wrote, Jehovah is the Lord Archon, a reptilian type of alien predator, an extraterrestrial being whose realm is the planetary system independent of Earth, Sun, and Moon. He is not the advanced being, i.e., more evolved than humans, but a demented alien with a certain superhuman or deific powers. Gnostics taught that Jehovah infects humanity with the belief that he is their creator God, but in fact, he cannot create anything. Whoa. So this is the one has always fascinated. This is the reception hall in the Vatican. Why did they create the great serpent? I mean, I've asked these questions throughout the years. Someone challenged me, well, what do you mean the church worships the Lucifer? Well, this is the prayer of Lucifer. It's spoken at Easter every year. Its flame alight, O Lucifer, the morning come, And he, I say, O Lucifer, who does not know the going down thereof, Christ thy Son, who, returning from the grave, human race shed his peaceful light, and now lives and reigns forever end. Amen. Amen. We hear the story of the light bearer and the dragon. So this is the Brotherhood of the Serpent. You can go back and look. I did a detail on this in another video. But the fact that we know that this sect of humans, I don't know, been around a long time. It goes here, and it goes 9,000 BCE. Homo-sapiens emerge, Earth still changing, continents moving. 8,000 BCE, humans appear first, record the serpent. 6,000 BCE, civilizations appear in the Indus Valley, and it is evidenced that other civilizations also existed. In all cases, the serpent is evidenced. 5,000 to 3,000 BCE, the Sumerians appear in the Fertile Crescent Valley. These are the birthplaces of the latter stories adapted by all major religions of the modern era. The serpent takes on a more prominent role by being depicted as God, Anu, Enki, Enlil. 4,000 BCE, the Indus Cervantes civilization, excuse me, went to that one, of Harappa, the serpent is there. In the Mohenjo-Daro civilization, again, 3,500 BC, extensive long burrows and chamber tombs appear across Europe. The serpent mounds, we have them here. 33 BC, the Mayans, same thing. 3,200, evidence of humans in Peru. The Aryan people, all of this serpent worship all the way through. And when you get into the supposed dates of this Christ, do you ever ask yourself, how'd they come up with this? Did you ask and ever stop and think, no, well, I know that the Bible is written in such, and you don't know nothing. We don't even know what the year is. We made it up because it makes things more easily adaptable, acceptable. So anyway, we get the date of Apollonius of Tyre. This is where the Jesus story was hijacked, and the true Christ went to India to learn from the Naga king Serpents and was taught in the temple of the Seleucus, the serpent of healing. So again, healing wisdom. And I can go on and on and on. I do, because this gets some weird stuff. Look at this, what's going on. You can't deny that this is just, well, artwork. No, there's something really going on. And anyway, I won't continue on it because I got other things I want to do, but we may come back to this because the second part of this PowerPoint presentation, in which I knew I wouldn't get to them all because there's 231 slides, and the information even gets better. So I know some people, I can't handle this, so they want to go, well, no, I mean, I didn't make this stuff up. I just took the time to methodically begin to justify in my own mind. Yes, someone said, did I get new glasses? Yes, I did. I did. So let's continue on because I don't want to stop there. Now, with Scott's book, this is really interesting. And I'm going to go over here to the summary so you can get the gist of the book. If you want it email me, I'll send it to you. So here's the summary of what his book did. We're going to condense it down to 3 pages out of nearly, what was the total count in there? 138. All right. So the naked truth. And what is this pervasive presence of serpents? And give me 1 second to get myself out of there. That emerges not only in the Sumerian and the Hebrew religions. We just seen this, but in many prevalent religious mythologies the world over. What if this supposed mysterious race of reptilian beings that seem to run through the undercurrent of humanity's mythos? They're in our consciousness, folks. They're in our collective consciousness. They have been forgotten, but that's self-induced. If you open yourself up to this and you really begin to let this open up pathways of your free thinking, it'll show you. Are these creatures the mere stuffs of man creation? He goes on to talk about Zacharias Stitchin. He said there is such overt similarity between the acts of Enki and Eve and the serpent in the Garden of Eden and the book of Genesis. Yeah, it's because the Sumerians were there before the book of Genesis. And isn't it odd that we never see the Sumerians mentioned? Because here's what I had someone argue me. Allow me to digress. They said, well, Steiger, you're wrong because the book of Genesis was God ordained. And I said, it's a goddamn lie. It was usurped. It was, plagiarized from other civilizations much older. And I said, here's my proof. When they were writing the Bible, who wrote it? Well, you got the Latin Vulgate or you got the King James, pick your choice. They didn't realize that there was a discovery that was going to be made in 1889, that in the year 1941-42, with George Smith, we discovered history, the Sumerian tablets. But here's the interesting thing. So they don't mention the Sumerian story from the Epic of Gilgamesh and the book of Genesis, but yet I can take you to the book of Zechariah where it mentions the Sumerians directly. And you know what is associated with the Sumerians? Flying saucers. Anyway, the traditional story tells us that the serpent is none other than Satan, the devil, Lucifer. However, the serpent is never called by any of those names in the text. It's just like there is no name for the Christian God. Summary 3, not what I was learning in Sunday school. The serpent in the garden now, the snake, was the most clever of all the wild animals the Lord God had made. One day the snake said to the woman, hey, babe, take a walk on the wild side. And anyway, did God really say that you must not eat the fruit? We know the story. And the woman said, yeah. Oh, nonsense. The kinsman redeemer, in short, the Old Testament story, the Messiah, and the corresponding genealogical records sustaining the traceable pure human bloodline, obliterated the complete opposite, that there was an impure bloodline. Oh, yeah, we know that. Either it was Adam or Cain's, whoever, right? Well, it seems that Eve first made out and had coitus with the serpent, which she gave birth to Cain. I don't know. It gets kind of confusing, doesn't it? Anyway, here, this other bloodline, that was the bloodline of the Nakash, the serpent of the Garden of Eden, member of the divine council, one of the gods of the pantheon of gods known as the sons of gods, the Benai Elohim, the watchers. He said in chapter 5, comparatively speaking, the remarkable fact that throughout all ancient and modern civilizations, the serpent, the snake, or the dragon, bestowing knowledge upon the human race, figures predominantly in all religions and history. the Judeo-Christian serpent as embodied in the fallen angel known as Lucifer, the Mayan serpent god Quetzalcoatl, the enormous plume serpent god of the Hopi Indians, the Baklakanka, the mystical human-like reptilians known as the Nagas of India, the Egyptian serpent god Neph, the Phoenicians Akathoman, even the Hebrew Nakushtan, the brazen serpent that Moses raised on a pole for the people to be healed. These are but a few of the myriad accounts that exist in worldwide religious cultures describing early gods as having reptilian, human, physical features, as well as having descended from the stars in heaven. And we know from the Terra papers that the reptilians were the first here. They are from the star system of Orion. And this is why we have the, yeah, this gets weird because Jesus, yeah. He goes on to say in Israel, in all, the serpent is mentioned more than 40 times in biblical references. An exhaustive listing here would be simply that, a list. Rather than referencing every passage, suffice to say that all you need is a reference of a concordance of the Bible words and look under the heading of serpent or snake. Try it sometime. The great dragon of China, 5,000 years ago in China, around the time the ancient Britons were building the first circular ditch and the mound at Stonehenge, the dragon began its long-standing tradition as a mythological figure of the Chinese people. Unlike the serpent or snake in other cultures, the Chinese held that the serpent/dragon as a symbol of happiness, immortality, sexual intercourse, and fertility, imbued with the ability to ward off evil spirits. The pervasive dragon decorates nearly every ancient monument and structure in China, as well as adorning the garments of ancient Chinese generals and high government officials. Hitting below the Orion's belt, the legacy of the ancient serpent has become the modern history of the reptilian connection. Is there any substantive reality to this, or is it all simply the extrapolation of ancient mythology into that current age, ours, all driven by the need to have something more? You are in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. The sardaris, the topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the turquoise, and the emerald with gold. That's what they said he was like. He goes on to talk about, he says, if you believe there's a lot of mythology and mystery surrounding the serpent and the Elohim, be prepared to pull up your iron shorts and put on your thinking cap. Because, and I want to get this right, I think it's the Merovingian connection to the serpent and the Elohim will quite possibly blow your mind. If you have heard the term, and I have to say, I'm more range, more mirror visions used. You may have heard them referenced in connection to the Holy Grail and the search for the sacred cup of the Arthurian legends, and still have absolutely no idea who or what they are, and that they have been tied to the mythology of the serpent. You will now find an astonishing connection to all the mythologies presented thus far in both the rise and fall of the Nephilim and everything in this book thus far. So here's his conclusion. Does the serpent crawl on its belly solely due to the spoken judgment of a god in a book of Genesis? Or is it that simply representative of one version of the serpent in human religion and religious mythology? It's seemingly as yet unanswerable questions are codependence with our ability as humans to reach an unreachable peace of the unpeaceable. Wow. Then, as I have shown you before, we never went through it all. We had other things. But which God is yours? Remember when we talked about the flying serpents and dragons? The literature and mythology of ancient cultures are filled with accounts of dragons, flying serpents, and other winged lizards, who then were these flying, fire-breathing creatures that seem to have coexisted with early man, sometimes as his benefactor, but many more times as his tormentor. Now I'm going to go through this probably on Thursday, maybe, not sure. But we need to, because this one gets into the whole fact that the story has been there right there in front of us. And I know it gets a little weird because, I mean, no one wants to, it's amazing how our brains have been so rewired. When you see a snake, you immediately fear it. You'll jump. Then you have other people who just love the creatures. But yet, when I see today, folks, what the insanity of our species is becoming, there has to be something in the past. So if in fact Lilith, there are depictions of Lilith as a serpent. In fact, in the Liber Lilith, she tells us that Samael, the god of this realm, is in fact a serpent, and that the Autogen, the heaven man, came down and split the two apart, and thus no more demons were born, or something similar to that. But yeah, so all right, what's going on? I don't buy the Luciferian story. I mean, I wished it was true. Don't buy the Satan. If anyone buys that crap, your mentality needs a little uplift. These are all modern day constructs. They have absolutely no foundation in reality. They don't exist, never have existed. But the question is, did the reptilians that used to walk this planet? There's a picture I have in my files that depicts the Serpent Man. We're a serpent man. We're not a reptilian man. We are a substrate of the reptilians, serpent. That is what sapien means, wise. And that they hunted alongside of the more earlier versions of Homo erectus, not sapiens. But did they leave? I don't know. They say that that's what the Anunnaki look like. They look like the seraphim. The grays of the abductions, we're going to get into that, are said to have reptilian backgrounds. That's where they came from. That's part of their origins of their DNA. Let's see what's happening here. Daniel Hill says, yes, the construct to support certain narratives to accomplish their agenda. I agree. Teresa, yeah, you just retracted that. I was just reading that. Let's see. The earliest written form of the Germanic word God comes from the 6th century Christian word codex argenteus. The English word itself is derived from not love not. I don't know what that is. Yeah. You see, when you come in the middle of conversations, you go, well, what? Okay. But anyway, I think it's worthy of consideration. And because it's so offensive to people to hear this, tells me we're on to something. That's what a mind control victim will do. You're pre-programmed to reject anything anything that would bring any type of light on the subject, you reject it summarily. Say, no. People will say, well, I'm not a monkey. Yeah, well, your DNA says that differently. But also our DNA has the same DNA that within serpents. And then you think about the serpent venom, how it works with certain serpents, poisonous ones. I studied this, how certain venoms work on certain parts of the body. And here's the one that I found interesting is how the venom enters into the bloodstream and how it begins to affect us. And of course, we know a human being can become injected enough with different venoms to build up an immunity to it. I don't know. It tells me that we're not right on this somewhere. I don't know. So, do you think that there's any legitimacy to the fact? What would be, and I'm just curious in the chat room, what is your opinion then of why all these serpents throughout our history? Earliest memories we have, here is the serpent. Were we created as servants to the reptilians? Is that what sapiens truly are? You know, we originate from serpents. Does that then lead us into servants? Is that just another name, a word game that we're looking at here? Homo-serpent? Is that what we're dealing with? I mean, why? And you know, like I said, I have spent hundreds of hours on this, literally, over the decades. It has gnawed at me that why everywhere you go and you look in history and the cultures of every civilization, here's the serpent. So let's see. Interesting. Danielle's talking about the reptilian brain. Yep. Mm-hmm. Gina Rose says, I want the truth. We have a reptilian mammal brain. We do. And folks, I mean, I wrote it in the very beginning, early this morning when I first posted this. Look at what happens to us. We shed our skin. We still shed our skin. There are so many similarities about this that it gets really interesting. They say that shapeshifters, how you can tell them that they're really reptilian is they have two different eyelids, and it's just the way they are. I don't know if this is an implant. I don't know if it's genetically, but they look like us, but they're not us. Well, they might be us. But one of the ways that they do have to blink, uh, not as frequently as we do, but that's when you can actually catch them. I don't know. Oh, Gina, that's cool. I made a serpent servitor for wisdom. Wow, that is deep, girl. Way to go. Yeah. That's cool. Mike Taylor says, I'm just fine with Jesus Christ. That's cool, you know, but he may have been a serpent. You don't know. I mean, history shows that there is a lot of validity to that, but hey, what do I know? I love it. You know, all points of view are welcome here. We definitely have sprouts of galactic DNA. Someone says that. Yeah. No, Mike. No. See, my friend, you're wrong, you know, but that's cool, you know. Many of us were where you were at, and that's cool, you know. Well, good. But I can tell you, you have to, if you become so narrow-minded and close-minded to think that you are right, you're very deceived. I can just tell you right now, but that's cool. Everyone to them all. We're not monkeys, Doug says. Well, then how do we get the RH factor in there, Doug? Tell me that. I'd like to know. And if you can write that, you know what, Mike Taylor, let's just agree that we disagree. And that's the best way. You smile and you shake the person's hand and you just say, I speak favor over you, which means you're empowered to prosper. That's how we roll here. Mrs. Space Cake says we're children of the universe. I hope so. We all have separate journeys. Mike, what's your point? I don't know what happened to Steve Olson. I haven't talked to him in years. You see, you, my friend, are trying to be antagonistic. And you know, when I see people like you, I have two things I can do. I can continue to put up with your nonsense, or I can just simply say bye. Now, you know, Mike, this is the way I roll. You can be a jerk or you can be a nice guy. You decided to be a jerk and you reaped what you sowed. So bye, dude. That's all I got to tell you. And we move on. And that's how you deal with it, folks. You don't have to deal with individuals that when you offer them kindness and they continue to reject it by being antagonistic, you don't need to deal with that energy. Just push it out and just move on. And that's how we move. And that's just the way we go. Steve is a good guy. Never said anything of negative. I don't say negative things about individuals. So, what's up with the serpent depictions in the Vatican? I just went through the whole thing, Steve. It's there. Sean, it's there. So, that's interesting, Crystal. That is very interesting. Interesting. Good point, Jenny. Excellent point. Yeah, the whole thing. Our blood is it's remarkable. And when they completed the Human Genome Project, we found out that we're not human. There is no such thing as a human. We are hybrids. I mean, and then they said that we had the 6% dirty DNA. Well, it turns out it's not dirty DNA. It's just that it's DNA that doesn't match anything here on this planet. And now they're finding with the mitochondrial DNA, which is feminine in its orientation. And now we're finding in the mitochondrial DNA that, my God, it has vast amounts of information. We don't have the cipher yet, but it's apparently more information that gets contained in any hundreds of libraries of Congresses. It's a good point. I mean, you know, RH, I believe, means the rhesus hemoglobin. So they don't tell us how they got that in there, huh? Uh-huh. Isn't that interesting? Here's another one. Made for war is particular reptilian race. And yeah. Isn't that interesting? God in Florida. That's cool. I can dig that. I am Monica. Yeah, I know. And sometimes the best thing to do is that you plant the seed and then you have to let them go, because there's an energy here that, you know, disruption. It's not that we, you know, don't seek it. And when it shows up, we deal with it in kindness. And then, you know, we just let them go and they'll be back. I'll penalize them later. All right, folks. Tomorrow we're going to China. I may pick this up with her again. This is just, you see, if we're not focused, then, and I like this, I love this group. We have to think beyond what we think that we know. And as repulsive as it may be, or as intriguing as it can be, something happened. And there's a reason for this, and why we as a species, why we as a culture choose to deny the evidence that's around the world and goes back tens of thousands of years. I don't know why. And I don't know why some people find it so hard to say, well, maybe there's something there. Maybe our creator is a reptilian. They manufactured us. They do is with most life. Most life is made in the lab. I think Rex Bear just did a show last week that, the patents are out there and they're doing it. Synthetic cell, synthetic life becoming actual life. We've cracked that code. This means that we are, in fact, just like those that made us. Woo! All right. Arctic eczema. I think that's cool. Yeah. Now, Gina, they'll put you in timeout. You keep that going. I appreciate all of y'all. All right. I held you over, and appreciate you, all of you, very much. And thank you for watching. I mean, I'd like to guess if you have opinions, if you have research of your own that you've done on this, I'd love to talk to you. Love to have you out here, because it's the one part of academia. In theology, I get it. I get why they reject it, because it is the truth. I really do believe that this is the truth. But yet in academia, there is this resistance. They don't want to admit to the Judeo-Christian values, but it's harder than hell to think that a cold-blooded something. How do we know they're cold-blooded? We don't know that. But if we have summarily rejected it as a species, but yet it permeates everything in our cultures, then I say we're missing something. And that shows me that we have been conditioned mentally. There has been either a mind block, there has been either something genetically that they do not want us to talk about this. They do not want us to explore this. Because it's easier to think that God's a white dude with a big beard, a Caucasian that doesn't get off his ass. It's easier to do that away. All right, folks. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of you. You're free thinkers. You're the most rarest and the most beautiful expression of humanity. Yes, that's true. That's you. So thank you for being a part of the journey. I appreciate it. And even with those who, disagree, that's all right. It's cool. Disagreeing is good. You just don't have to get funky about it. Or what was it I watched? Lynn and I watched It's a Hard Day's Night. Don't be cheeky, baby. That's what I'm going to start saying. Don't be cheeky, baby. You know what that's translation for? Don't be an ass. Okay? So let's not be cheeky here. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good to see God in Florida. I haven't seen you before. Welcome. Good, Doug. Let me write to me. Listen, this is the kind of stuff that I appreciate. Hey, Nina, what's up? Interesting, Teresa. Yeah, I'll check in on that. That's cool. Hey, Marty and Heidi, how you doing? Good to see you. David Castle, hello, and thank you, all the moderators. Y'all are just the best, and all the rest of you. What a group. Much love to you all. See you tomorrow, and basto to everybody, even sometimes, even the cheeky ones.